Chosen ones, God is about to change your reputation overnight. You have been labeled. Perhaps not explicitly, perhaps not in dramatic, confrontational terms, but in the quiet, consistent, unmistakable way that happens when the people and environments around you have decided what category you belong in and have responded to you from inside that decision rather than from an honest engagement with who you actually are. And the specific pain of that experience of being seen through a lens consistently produces a distorted image of your actual self is one of the most quietly devastating things a chosen person can endure, because it does not just affect how others see you. Over time, without the deliberate, faithful counter-narrative of what you know to be true about yourself, it can begin to affect how you see you. I need to tell you something today that I need you to receive with everything you have. That misreading is ending. The reputation that was constructed from incomplete information, from other people's limitations, from circumstances that could not reflect the fullness of who you are, that reputation is about to be replaced. Not gradually, not slowly, in the specific, sudden, unmistakable way that God moves when the appointed moment for a shift arrives, and the shift is no longer going to be deferred. Let me describe what it has been like to carry the reputation you have been carrying. Not the version you describe when people ask how things are going. The interior version. There is a specific exhaustion that comes from consistently being underestimated, from watching people's expectations of you calibrate to something significantly below what you know yourself to be capable of, from being in rooms where the assumptions about what you will contribute before you have contributed anything are already set at a level that your actual contribution will exceed, but that no one will fully register because the expectation was never adequate to begin with. That exhaustion is not arrogance. It is the genuine, legitimate weariness of someone who has been pouring genuine depth into containers that were sized for something shallower and watching the excess, the full measure of what they actually brought, simply overflow without being collected. And alongside the exhaustion has been something quieter and in some ways more damaging: the self-doubt, the specific creeping question of whether the people who underestimate you might somehow be right. Whether the gap between who you know yourself to be and how you are being perceived is evidence of a deficiency in your perception rather than in theirs. Whether the misreading is actually just an accurate reading that your ego has been refusing to accept. You have had that conversation with yourself, in the quiet hours, in the moments of genuine honesty when the composure dropped and the question became unavoidable. And every time you have had it, every time you have genuinely engaged, with the possibility that the low estimation might be accurate, something has come back from the interior of you that was more reliable than the doubt, the knowing, the specific, unkillable, impossible to fully extinguish sense of what you actually are, of what lives in you, of what you are capable of producing when the right season and the right conditions arrive. That knowing is not ego, it is calling. And calling, however long it has gone unrecognized by the world around you, is about to become impossible to ignore. Reputation shifts happen overnight because they are built over decades. The specific phrase in this message's title, overnight, deserves careful examination. Because the overnight part is real, and understanding why it is real changes everything about how you experience the waiting that has preceded it. Reputation shifts that appear to happen overnight are almost never actually created overnight. What happens overnight is the revelation of something that has been building beneath the surface for an extended period through the quiet, invisible, unacknowledged accumulation of character, capability, and faithful action that had no immediate audience, but that was producing compound interest on everything it deposited. The night of the shift is simply the moment when the underground river breaks through to the surface, when the roots that have been growing in the dark become visible in the fruit they produce above ground, when the person that the difficult seasons were building finally finds the context, the moment, or the specific divine arrangement that allows them to be seen clearly for the first time. You have been building in the dark. Your character has been developing, your capability has been deepening, your faithfulness has been compounding, all in the quiet, largely unwitnessed season that this period represents. The overnight reputation shift that is coming is not a miracle that arrives from nowhere. It is the natural, inevitable result of underground growth finally breaking through. It will look sudden to everyone watching. They will not see the decades that produced the moment, but you will. And you will understand with a clarity that the observers cannot access exactly how long the overnight has been in preparation. The people who underestimated you are being positioned to witness the correction this truth requires, the specific kind of grace that only genuine security can produce, because the temptation to receive it with vindication is real, and the wisdom of receiving it with something more generous than vindication is what this season is asking for. The people who formed low estimates of you, who made decisions based on those estimates, who spoke words informed by those estimates, who responded to you from inside the limitation of what they were able to see in you, are about to witness the correction of what they saw. Not because God is interested in proving them wrong as an end in itself, but because the natural outworking of your breakthrough will be visible to everyone in your environment. And for the people who had the most limited view of your potential, that visibility will produce the most dramatic revision. The correction of their estimate is not your responsibility. It is not something you need to engineer or manage or ensure happens in a specific way. It is the natural automatic consequence of becoming fully visible in your actual capacity rather than in the limited version that the previous season allowed to be seen. Your responsibility is the grace with which you hold the correction, the specific, magnanimous quality of a person who has been underestimated and who receives the correction of that underestimation without the bitterness or the satisfaction of having been proven right. That grace, that generosity of spirit toward the people who could not see you accurately, is itself one of the marks of the chosen person, and it is what transforms the reputation. Shift from a personal vindication into something larger and more significant than personal vindication alone. Your reputation shift will open doors that years of effort could not. One of the most practically significant dimensions of what is about to happen, and one of the most important to understand in advance, is the specific effect that a reputation shift has on access. Access to rooms, to conversations, to opportunities, to the specific intersections of your path with people and circumstances that carry what the next chapter of your life requires. For a long time through the season of misreading and underestimation, your access to those rooms has been limited by how you were perceived, not by who you actually are, by the gap between who you are and how you have been read. And that gap has been functioning as an invisible ceiling on the opportunities available to you, regardless of how genuinely capable you are of inhabiting what those opportunities would have offered. The reputation shift removes the ceiling. When how you are perceived aligns with who you actually are, when the label is replaced by the accurate reading, the doors that were functionally closed by the inaccurate perception become available in a way that your effort alone could never have forced open. Effort without reputation gets a person to a certain level. Beyond that level, doors open for people whose reputation has prepared the room for them before they arrive. The reputation shift that is coming is what prepares those rooms. Your effort was never wasted. It was building the person who the new reputation will accurately describe, and the new reputation will open the rooms where that person belongs. The silence of the hard season was protecting the depth of the shift. Here is a truth about the relationship between the difficult, quiet, unacknowledged season you have been in and the magnitude of the reputation shift that is coming, and understanding it transforms the meaning of what the season has been. The depth of a reputation shift is proportional to the contrast between what was and what is becoming visible. The more significant the gap between the underestimation that preceded it and the accurate reading that follows it, the more powerful and lasting the impression that the shift creates. Which means that the more thoroughly you have been underestimated, the more completely the difficult season has obscured the full measure of what you carry, the more dramatic the correction will appear when it finally arrives. The silence of the hard season was not just keeping you humble or building your character, though it was doing both of those things. It was creating the contrast that makes the shift undeniable. It was allowing the gap between perception and reality to become significant enough that when the reality is finally visible, the response to it cannot be mild or easily dismissed. The world is going to see the full measure of who you are, after a season of seeing only a fraction of it. And the contrast between the fraction and the fullness is what produces the overnight quality of the shift, the sense that something extraordinary has appeared suddenly, when in truth it has been building through the entire season that appeared to be nothing. God changes reputations by changing positioning, not just perception. This is a distinction that matters enormously, and that most conversations about reputation shifts miss. A change in perception alone, people deciding to think differently about you without any change in your positioning or your circumstances, is temporary. It fades. It is vulnerable to the next piece of information that confirms the original estimate. It does not produce the kind of lasting structural change in how you move through the world that a genuine reputation shift creates.